everyone. So I've noticed that a lot of people have been like kind of actually enjoying me talking about Dungeon Lord in my shorts videos, and I do want to make this channel eventually to do more than just talk about Grimgar. So I'm going to make a video talking about Dungeon Lord right now. But I will say that Dungeon Lord is something hard to make videos about because it's a story that doesn't really have much. It doesn't really have much support in terms of like fan art, or it doesn't really have any B-roll stuff. You know, in Grimgar, I always have like the anime in the background and stuff. There's no B-roll for Dungeon Lord, not really. So I have to kind of make my own. So making these videos feel a little longer to make. So I thought I'll just sit here and ramble about Dungeon Lord for a little bit. And you guys can let me know what you guys think of this story and the things I have and the things that I enjoy about this story specifically. This is not a script video. This is me just going off thinking about things I like about Dungeon Lord, and I plan on making more scripted videos about Dungeon Lord later on. And for those of you unaware, Dungeon Lord is essentially a lit RPG audiobook and also a normal book. If you guys are interested in this book in any way, I do have an affiliate link in the description if you guys want to, like, you know, buy the book, try the audiobook, and some of that money will go to me. So the thing for me that I really like about the story is, while on one hand it has some of the stuff that I don't like about isekai, like the power fantasy aspect of it, but I still very much enjoy all the characters in the story, and the fact that the story is willing to like flesh everyone out a decent amount. Even side characters like a hyena man, who is like the leader of a pack of hyena people who Ed eventually like hires. He's a fun, goofy dude who is got like what I like to call Goku-itis, where he likes to fight like strong people, but he still like values loyalties to Ed, and he still has like competitive nature to like team animals. Like it fleshes this character out, and he's not even one of the main characters. He, as far as I'm aware, has no POV in the entire story, but the story still goes out of its way to like give this random guy a lot of character, and you can actually put that level of like fleshing out to all of the side characters that don't have POVs. The story goes out of its way to make sure that everyone gets enough screen time, and it's not just focused on Ed. Also, everyone's like goals are a little different technically. While everyone wants Ed and his dungeon to actually succeed, because they're all of their lives depend on it essentially, they all have different values, and they all have different like views, and they all have different goals in life. For example, Alder, Ed's bard, actually is someone who wants to become a proper bard, and he's interested in seeing like heroics. He's interested in seeing the world. He wants to travel around. He wants to like learn about cultures. He wants to be the conventional bard you see in fantasies, but he's just not brave enough. But he does have the skills to like navigate politics to a degree. He's really good at like knowing how people feel, and he's somebody who is fleshed out throughout the entire story. He goes from a very scared, cowardly man who is willing to like let everyone do everything for him to keep him alive.
It would be a fine time for you to stand up and defend my honor, you useless child, Levi told the blonde man. My ankle is sprained, I think, he grimaced, holding his leg. Toss in the trinket, please. Later. The blonde guy got up and strutted over to them with a friendly smile. Ed couldn't fail to notice that his supposedly sprained ankle gave the guy no signs of pain. Well done, you two. I would have helped, of course, but my ankle was too bruised. I can see that. Ed,
actually being someone who's willing to learn to fight and learn swordsmanship, he also puts himself in danger a lot in later parts of the story to help Ed a lot. Levi is a character who's just trying to become the best witch she possibly can be. Ed recognizes that she could be a really good asset and helps her by giving her just an entire section of his dungeon for her to practice magic and be herself, which is something she's never actually had in her life. A lot of people judge her for being a witch and hate her because she uses dark magic. And Ed recognizes that she's not necessarily a bad person. She is in the gray area. She does do animal sacrifices and is willing to endanger people that are not that important to Ed's dungeon.
Who's there?
She appeared as if spawned from the very darkness, black hair like angry tendrils on the wind. For an instant, Shrekyu thought an apparition from the depths of the netherworld had come to claim his soul.
Head researcher Lavina,
Shrekyu said.
What are you doing here?
I figured it out,
she said hollowly.
How Murmur made the fucking Tormagris Discus cooperate with the thrice-damned Kolkatar Ray.
I have 0 ranks in spellcraft,
he said nervously, wondering if it would be polite to scramble back to his tent. Lavina seemed completely unaware that it was freezing cold here, despite being dressed only in those scant dresses that non-feathered females wore in these strange lands.
So, that sounds like gibberish to me.
She pressed forward and shoved the paper bat into Shrikyu's confused arms. She also got out a hammer and a huge iron nail from somewhere in her dress, which had no pockets whatsoever, and gave them to the man.
Hurry! The astronomical conditions may not be right again for months. Get the kite as high up the mountain as you can possibly fly. Then coil a length of wire around the spike, like this.
She used spiral motions to tie the copper wire around the iron nail.
Have you gone nuts? I may get turned into roasted bird by lightning.
All worthy science has its dangers.
If it means her getting more power, she's, again, the story is not 100% like good guys and bad guys. Sometimes it's a little bit in the middle of people being dicks. I'm gonna be honest with you. But she still ultimately is pushing to become the strongest witch she possibly can be, and that also benefits Ed because she's a part of his haunt. It's in a way kind of like One Piece with like Luffy's crew, for example. They all have individual goals, but they all like still benefit the overall crew. Essentially, they're not all only focused on Ed, which for me personally it's something that I hate that happens in a lot of stories where the main characters are all really just kind of like, oh man, I wonder what the main character's doing right now. Oh, he's so important. I'm just like, I hate that. I want everyone to like have their own things, have their own goals, and this story does that quite a lot. Another thing that I really like is the fact that, as many of you may have watched my past videos when it comes to talking about like Grimgar and like platonic relationships, this story does also do Protagonist. There's no harem in this story, and there's no relationships that sprout from it. However, it does do one thing that you rarely ever see in isekai and a lot, and admittedly, it's not even just an isekai thing. In fantasy stories in general, I read a lot of fantasy stories outside of Grimgar and other isekais. This kind of stuff doesn't usually happen, but Ed and Levi at one point in the first book, spoiler warning by the way, are both in a very bad emotional state and in a bad headspace essentially, and they do find comfort in each other physically. That does happen. But they both realize they're completely emotionally incompatible. They find each other hot. Like, they do. But they're like, this is not going to work out. We can't keep doing this. And they just agree to stay friends. And they never touch the subject ever again. They kind of have awkward moments where they're being flirty, but they don't want to, like, make each other feel like that's what they're interested in. That's just their personalities. And they do, like, address that. But it is taken in a very mature way. It's not just like, oh, we had sex. Now we have to date. No, it's just like, oh, we had sex at one time. We're not compatible emotionally, and like, it's just not gonna work. So, we're just not gonna do it. As much as I also give isekai a lot of shit for this is something that happens in lit RPGs a little too much when it comes to making the character kind of a very open shell of a person, kind of like vanilla. Like, it's a Kirito, you know what I mean? They don't have much of a personality, and it's easy for the reader to actually like put themselves in the place of the character. It's self-insert essentially. Ed doesn't have that. Ed is very quickly established as somebody who has anger issues.
He grabbed a handful of Ryan's golden curls, pulled his head up, and yanked down hard against the desk before the guy could react.
Someone who has essentially had relationships in the past romantically and is, while nerdy, not such a nerd that he lets things get out of hand in terms of like what he is willing to do, and he doesn't let his nerdiness get in the way of his life, essentially. Like, he's established character with certain values, and also the story challenges those values quite a lot. Ed, very early on, starts out very, like, leaning good person. Near the end of the fourth book, you can debate that Ed has gone pretty dark in terms of, like, personality. He goes from, I don't want to kill people, to, hey, this guy threatened somebody that I care about. I'm just going to murder him because I don't want to take the chance that he might do something possibly bad or something. Like, I love Ed. He does have an arc, and the story does actually have the theme of, like, how much power, does power corrupt? And if it does, well, how does it corrupt, essentially? That's one of the themes of Dungeon Lord that I like that they do very well. Ed, early on, is like, I'm not going to change because of power. By the end of the second book, he definitely changes. Ed, as a character starting out, is very much an idealist. He has ideals that he doesn't want to, like, break or go against, but he's not willing to sacrifice people for his ideals. So, for example, in the second book, he gets a power that lets him control minions in his dungeon for a certain amount of time, and he takes away their ability to, like, you know, be in control of their body entirely. And if they die, he just goes back to his body, but they stay dead. He refuses to use his power because it's given to him by one of the dark gods, Murmur. And he absolutely refuses his power because he thinks it's stupid and disgusting and it's a horrible thing to do to people. By the second book, something happens that's so bad in his dungeon, and he's so hurt that he can't actually keep fighting, that he actually has to project the spell out and actually use it. And he says that he wants to never use this spell, but he is going to, specifically because he's not willing to like sacrifice people and let his friends die for his own like values and his own like views. So while he has strong views and strong values, he's willing to break them and sacrifice them if it means keeping his friends and family alive. I like that because in a lot of stories, like, I'm a good person, I'm not gonna kill, and then the story like bends over backwards to like keep that character as a good person. For example, like Superman, in a lot of his books, he'll essentially like not have to kill people, or Batman will not have to kill people because the story will give him an out. In Dungeon Lord, Ed doesn't get an out. If he's in a situation where like saving his friends mean killing someone, he will kill someone for his friend. He's not like a super morally upstanding person all the time. He isn't a douchebag or anything, but it's something that he like struggles with in terms of like his morality throughout the story, and you see him start to like go towards the dark a little bit through the story. It's really interesting. Another thing, especially if you're someone who loves Grimgar, about Dungeon Lord that I really, really love is the views and the challenges of being a leader. Ed, like Hadahiro from Grimgar, struggles with leadership. Not the same way Hadahiro. Like, Hadahiro genuinely does not want to be a leader throughout the story. Ed chooses to accept this role, and he enjoys it a lot of the time. But you really see like how hard it is to keep an entire like faction alive. He has to think about money. He's got to think about food. He's got to think about like their housing. He's got to think about like which group of people he needs to keep apart from each other or they'll fight each other. He needs to think about if someone like breaks a rule or a law in his dungeon, what should he do? Should he imprison them? Should he like expel them? Like, he's got there's a whole bunch of stuff that it has to deal with as a leader that he struggles with, and it is exhausting. At one point in the story, you see Ed like going through the dungeon taking care of everything. He can't even stop to eat food. He actually has one of his minions bring food while like, and he's just like walking with him while he's eating and drinking to get to the next like appointment he needs to take care of, because he has to essentially like keep working and eating while working because he can't take a break. And this does affect his health a little bit as well. So like, you see the challenges of being a leader and the sacrifices you need to make, and that is also a big thing. Like, the story itself is not like dark and gritty. It is essentially, at the end of the day, a fun, lighthearted adventure, but it does have moments where like, oh, that kind of sucked a little bit because of the sad thing that happened. But it's not like super sad. Like Grimgar, comparing Grimgar and the Dungeon Lord in terms of like tone is very different. Grimgar gets really sad and depressing and dark at times. Dungeon Lord never really goes into that. It's more of a fun adventure story, and you're gonna have fun the entire time while listening to it. And the audiobook is fantastic. But anyway, I've been ranting for a while. I just thought I'd make this video like talking about it. If you guys want me to talk more about Dungeon Lord, let me know, because I'm making a bunch of shorts on it. So if you enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know what you guys think about Dungeon Lord. I'm going to get on looking for B-roll for Dungeon Lord videos in the future, because I need to find something, because there's just like no fan art. If anybody knows a fan art, an artist who does like fan art, let me know. I need to hire some artists to make Dungeon Lord like stuff, because holy crap. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great night or day. Bye.